taking AP Drawing this year and their summer work. So first it started off with some brainstorming, and then there was more brainstorming and tiny thumbnails and bigger thumbnails. The theme I ended up going with was things that unsettled me as a kid. So here's the first piece. Here's the thumbnail. It's based around when the deli my mom would take us to had a cow head at it, and here's just some process work where it was just pencil and watercolor, and I went over it with acrylic paint, and then I went over it with some marker and color pencil, which is what you see here. And here's the final thing. This is more, the colors in this are more accurate than they are in the video. And here's the second. Here's the thumbnail. It's based on the ending scene of Disney's animated Alice in Wonderland, where the Red Queen sort of runs to the screen. Here's the line art, and here's the colored sketch.
So I have my sketch that I printed out onto 6 pieces of paper. Here's a ruler of a scale so you can see how big it is. The full design I'll put on screen somewhere, but I've been tracing this onto pieces of paper like this, you can kind of see like that, to then trace them onto this board, which then I'm going to cut out and probably paint, and then use paper clips here to have them be staggered on top of this frame that I got here. It's pretty thick, so yeah, that'll be fun. So far I've only got the pieces that involve her skin traced out as just a tester, and you can see I put show up sort of right there is where I leaned my elbow into it, and now there's a dent, so that's real fun. It's time to start painting these pieces, so that's gonna be fun. We have my old jam jar full of water, my extremely thick palette covered in who knows how many layers of paint, my equally as gross t-shirt I use to wet my brush up on when I'm painting, and my bucket of paint on the floor that I'm not going to bother trying to move. Oh, and my jar of brushes. Look at them. Turn it up. Yes, my pencils are also in a similar one. Yeah, paint time. Let's go.
This footage is mostly me mixing paint. I don't remember if I actually paint the pieces. I think I do some flats, but that's about it. So you can see I have my palette, which in this clip looks mostly pink and purple. Does not stay that way. I think currently, now that I'm done with the project, it's mostly shades of black and red. So I've got my palette knife, which is in my hand. It's the thing I'm using to mix. It's a super cheap one I got for like probably less than $1 at one of the art stores that closed down near me. You can see my acrylic paint is over there, and then I've got my white powder in the cup is plaster of Paris mix, which I mix in, makes the paint thicker. It does dry a slightly different color, but other than that, it hasn't seemed to have any negative side effects, and I don't use the Paris plaster powder for anything else. I just got it on sale at Michael's for like $4 in case I did need it for something, so I've been using it for this lately, and that seems to be working out. The one thing about using paint on this foam board that I got at the actual dollar store means that it's sort of like a piece of foam sandwiched between 2 pieces of what's essentially kind of like printer paper. So as I paint it, it gets all warped, which you can kind of see in this with the hand. There's like the one big like fold down the middle. I try to fix that. I never really get around to it. Sometimes paper peeled off as well, so I had to like glue it back down, which would come unglued because I would just use a glue stick because it's what I had near me and I didn't want to wait for a liquid glue to dry. Painting the hands was a nightmare. I don't mind drawing hands necessarily, but I do think having to like paint and render them sucks, especially when it's this big because you have to mix a lot of paint. So I'd like mix some paint and it wasn't like of skin colored paint and it wouldn't be enough. Then I'd mix some more and it'd be way too much. And then I would pause for a couple of days and then I'd come back and have to mix more. And it was just an entire hassle and I don't know. I'm not a fan, especially since these hands are in non-standard positions, if you will, and a little bit foreshortened, maybe. They're at a weird angle. So it's not really an angle I can look at my hand at. So I am painting my last pieces of that project. Just doing the edges and like this is my horrid desk. In case you were curious, we have my Digimon and Tamagotchi over there in the corner, chilling for when I get distracted. Yeah, there's my crusty palette. There's a piece that I'm waiting for something to dry. That's my tub of plaster that I've been mixing with my cheap little apple powder paint to make it thicker. My pieces that I finished painting are in a different stack somewhere else. Oh, I've also got ink because I've been. So here's me the pictures I took of the final thing, featuring this picture of a cow I had. Here's it from the top, just like an standard overhead view, and then I have some shots from the side. Yes, the hands are held up by clear plastic cups. Don't at me. And here's some more detail shots. I think it turned out pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. And I've been adding two pieces, little red lines, to make them. Oh, just dipped my finger in paint. Make them more coordinated. So it doesn't show up super red. Here it looks more brown because it's on like a darker. There's red. Here's this piece. Love it. There's this piece that I painted that I actually really like. So there's some red details on there. So that's this. Wow, please, that red. It looks darker now because it's been sitting out for a day, so it kind of dried. And also it spilled onto my desk, which is why there's this weird light spot because I used a nail polish remover to get it off. And that does something strange to the finishing of my desk, which is fantastic. Really love that. I took a break from painting for a couple of days just because I needed to buy more paint. That's when I got this and these two from the good old Walmart. It's apple barrel paint, but I've been mixing it with the powder, which makes it white powder, which makes it thicker. If you move that side, if you see here, my very thick palette. The paintbrush go. You poke it. It's real thick, and there's a, as opposed to runny like how it normally is, just because that I don't have to use as many layers to go over it because the paint is cheap enough that it's more worth my time to just put more paint on. I mean, it'd be the same amount of paint doing multiple layers now I think of it. It's just not worth my time to have to go over everything with multiple layers because there's a lot of pieces and I am one person. A lot of it's like tedious stuff anyways. I think the most I've had to go over on anything is like the face to try and render that, which wow, that's real close. If you look, there's like little details and yeah. Took some layers for that. My sister hates this because she hates snows. So do I, so she's not as special, but that there's the hand. which took some layers because drawing hands I've kind of covered at this point, but painting them, not a fan. Painting them in this weird convoluted angle and position, extra not a fan. And here are some pictures of the final thing. Overall, I think it turned out pretty cool. Here's an overhead shot, and then the rest are just side shots. You can see the hands are held up by cups, and there are indeed layers. Overall, it's a pretty cool project to work on. I guess it's kind of nice if you have a lot of time. If you're on time crunch, I wouldn't recommend doing